And welcome, everybody, to another Mark Bishop show. You know, if you're taking a road trip this summer, folks, right, with the little ones, PETA advises why to drive right on by those roadside animal attractions. Now, Meghan Tiemann, my guest in a moment, is the captive wildlife specialist for the PETA Foundation's Captive Animal Law Enforcement Division. Welcome, Meghan.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Meghan, this summer there's one type of destination that animal protection advocates are urging everyone to keep off their itineraries, like roadside zoos and menageries. What's going on?
So like you said, it's summertime and people are going to be traveling and looking for things to do with their families. And along the highways or the roadsides, you may see advertisements for places like drive-through safaris, or interactive aquariums, or places that offer photo opportunities with animals. And these are going to be held at places we call roadside zoos. They are unaccredited facilities that often force their animals to live in barren enclosures with often no access to proper veterinary care or even adequate diet. So we're just urging everybody who cares about animals to stay away from facilities like this.
Yeah, pretty cruel. It sort of brings back the old stuff on those, Tiger King and Chimp Crazy, doesn't it?
Absolutely. That's exactly the type of picture we want to paint for people, that these roadside zoos are exploiting animals. They're allowing contact between, especially baby animals.
Yeah.
There's so much behind the scenes that people are unaware of, or they just don't know because they've been given the wrong information.
Yeah. Well, I don't think we'd like to be cramped in barren pens and cages, you know what I mean? The physical and psychological needs of the animals are just certainly not even cared about, They're chronically ill, they're suffering in a lot of cases. I mean, look, PETA has rescued hundreds of animals from roadside zoos in the U.S., but many still remain, don't they, Meghan? I mean, at decrepit facilities all across the country. Why? How is this happening?
Absolutely, these places still exist, and it's going to take people just stop going, stop supporting these places, and we need to keep the animal welfare in mind. That these places, like you said, they're deplorable. They are forcing their animals to live in these tiny enclosures. The babies that are used for photo opportunities are taken from their mothers at anywhere from up to 7 days old.
Oh.
And then they're forced to be passed around from person to person. And it's incredibly stressful for the animals and for the baby and for mom.
Mm-hmm.
It's incredibly dangerous for everybody involved. And once those animals become, quote unquote, too big or too dangerous, they're simply put back into these tiny enclosures, or they're sold to another breeder who's going to just continue the cycle.
That's disgusting.
So we just need to make sure that we're never supporting these places.
Well, listeners, I want you to, before you do travel, maybe you're planning it now, have a look at this site, PETA.org/roadside zoos. All right, PETA.org/roadside zoos, all one word. Some examples of what listeners might find in some of these. Now, we've touched on a couple of things, but talk about some other things that happen at these places.
Yeah, some major red flags you're going to see are, like I said, any type of interaction between the general public and the animals. Any place that forces their animals to participate in, tricks or shows. And then you don't have to be an animal expert to see that the animals are in distress. They're going to be in tiny enclosures. Some of them often never have access to grass.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them don't even have access to sunlight. And we see just debilitating arthritis. We see so many other medical issues. We see psychological issues because the animals are not given proper enrichment. They're not stimulated enough in these tiny enclosures. And, they suffer because of that.
So there must be a lot of diversity. I mean, the various kinds of these roadside animal attractions, that people are driving along. Is it like billboards are up and you see it coming up on the highway, or how do they attract people?
Yeah, that's exactly it. There's just We call them roadside zoos because they're literally on the side of the road. Some of them that we deal with that we see all the time are on the side of highways. The animals don't want to live there. That's really loud and frightening for them.
Yeah.
But the people who own them are trying to get as many people to stop by as possible because they want to make as much money off the animals as possible.
Yeah.
If you see true accredited sanctuaries are going to be giving their animals acres sometimes of land, not confining them to these tiny spaces.
I mean, when it all boils down, from the visitor's point of view, I want the kids to meet animals. I want the kids to see close up, not just on television or in a documentary. Really, petting the zoos and tiger cub selfie opportunities, they're hazardous anyway, aren't they?
Absolutely. And, that's a good point. I get it. People love animals. They want to see animals. They want to learn about them. They're amazing. Of course they are. But there's just so many places that are not doing it the right way, that are abusing animals, right up close or often behind the scenes. So if we do want to enjoy animals, there are so many other places we can go besides these roadside zoos that can help animal welfare and contribute to positive education from these animals.
And it's better that the children learn now. There's a lot of this stuff also on the site, right? To explain and be able to show photos, right? You've rescued a lot of animals.
Absolutely.
That's the PETA.org/roadside zoos.
Yep, and that website will show you, give people a more visual of what we're trying to explain, that these tiny barren enclosures where the animals have nothing to do but pace back and forth all day. And, we see bear pits are a huge problem still here in the United States. They're literal concrete pits where bears are forced to live, and they have nothing to do but beg tourists for food. They have an improper diet. They have so many medical issues that come out of that.
Yeah.
Imagine if we were to live on concrete for our whole entire lives.
Like the poor
it's incredibly painful.
Yeah. I understand.
Yeah, it's very stressful.
So, on the good side of things, okay, what are some examples of animal-friendly summer vacation spots?
Yeah, so people can be looking out for just any activity that doesn't involve animals whatsoever. Going to the beach or going to a national park. And there's also so many places, so many circuses now that have gone animal free, that are just doing right by the animals. There's no reason for us to be riding elephants anymore. There's no reason for us to be taking photos with, small primates. These animals do not want to be touched or exploited by us. So I think people just need to keep that in mind when they're making decisions about where they're going to enjoy their summer vacation.
These roadside zoos, you know what I don't get, Meghan? I do not get how they're allowed to exist,
Yeah, it's tough because when these places are open to the public, they have to be licensed by the USDA. And unfortunately, there's just not enough law. There's not enough people protecting the law to make sure that these animals are being treated properly.
Right.
So it takes people to understand what's actually going on to, if we know what's happening, just stop going, stop supporting.
That's the biggest way people can help, isn't it? Just don't go.
Absolutely. Yep. And it's confusing. People may not know what's good and what's bad. And that's why we're here. And we want to educate that there is a proper way to enjoy animals that does not involve exploitation in any way.
Meghan Tiemann, ladies and gentlemen, is the captive wildlife specialist for the wonderful PETA Foundation, the Captive Animal Law Enforcement Division. They do marvelous work and have done so for many, many years. It's amazing. And this is no different. This roadside business, it's getting out of hand. See if you can help. Don't go. Read the website, have a look at it, study, and go from there. Meghan, lovely speaking with you. Good luck with the project.
Thank you so much for having me. It was a pleasure.